off the bus.
You know, I was picking up the diesel, but I was picking up something else. But then all of a sudden, it's now the windows to the right. Horses.
Dublin Ireland.
Right, we'll go there. Take the word.
Trying to become a lot more cosmopolitan, I guess. This bookshop has great, if any of you are into photography or art of any sort, you must come back here. And then just down here is the film place, and it shows independent films. You don't get a huge amount of these films back over where you live. I saw a film yesterday about a very topical issue, the Gaza Strip and suicide bombers in Israel and Palestine. And they showed funny films of all types, but they're all small, teeny films with teeny amounts of funding and no famous people. Within the whole of the UK, to come to Dublin University is a very noteworthy place to come.
So what would be the average cost?
Universities, well, when we go to Oxford, I'll talk more about that, but they've just increased the cost from £1,000 UK pounds, which is what I paid, to $2,000 a year. It's now £3,000.
These are called Georgians Houses. And they're quite famous. Especially the doors.
This is Key Park?
Yeah, this is called a key park because the residents were given their own keys to get into the park.
Now, on your right here, this is James Street, and on your right there, the narrow street down is Anglesey Street, where we find the Dublin Stock Exchange. On the right-hand, down to your right-hand side here, all of these little narrow streets go down to the River Liffey. And all of the whole network to the right there is Temple Bar, which you've probably discovered anyway. Now, as we come along the road, now that was built by the Anglo-Normans. They came here in the 12th century, and of course they were you can see the centre blocks there. It's easy to pick out the oldest part. The stone is very, very old. And that was under construction in the year 1169, when we had the Anglo-Normans arrive here. Now, they came from Normandy in the north of France. They conquered England in the year 1166, and they came over here, or 1066, they came over here 103 years later, conquered Dublin City. Now, this cathedral was under construction by the Irish, and when the Normans arrived, of course, they too were a Christian people, and they were prevailed upon by the Archbishop of Dublin, Lawrence O'Toole, now St. Lawrence O'Toole. It's very like being up to your right there. The Synod Hall was built in the 18th century as a meeting place for the bishops of the Church of Ireland, and a little bridge over the roadway connects the two. Now, Christ Church Cathedral was built in the centre of the cathedral he found here, or the site he found. This was the place where in the year 450, St. Patrick, as he tried Christianity, he stopped at
They bring me to St. Patrick's Cathedral.
Dedicated on St. Patrick's Day in the year 1192, so it's a very old cathedral. Now, it was built here because of the sacredness of the site. This was the site where St. Patrick baptized the first Christians of our city at a well, and the well is now closed, but the small wooden church, which was built by Patrick, was on your left, the area on your left as you came in. It's now the actual baptistry of this cathedral. We know this from old maps. Now, when they were building this cathedral, they were mindful of the sacredness, but it was a very unsuitable site, really, for a cathedral, because a strand of the River Poddle runs right under the high altar, and that wouldn't be recommended. You'd have moved it somewhere else. But anyway, they built the cathedral, but it meant that for centuries they had problems with rising tides in the river. The place was flooded on a regular basis. Probably this happened in lots of parts of Europe or whatever. But anyway, every spring saw spring tides flooding. Now, they put up with this for centuries. Now, I'm taking a leap forward and then I'll go back. In 1864, the waters were so high that they nearly undermined the whole cathedral. The foundations were damaged severely. This wall here was almost, it was really in peril. They did fix it, but today it's still 13 inches off perpendicular. And of course, when your wall and your floor or your foundations are in trouble, your roof also is. Now, it had to be fixed, or the cathedral, would just collapse. And you know what it is to pay a plumber to fix a leak anywhere. Imagine fixing a cathedral. Well, there was one person who came to the rescue of St. Patrick's, and that was Arthur Guinness. That's why everyone supports him. On religious grounds, they drink Guinness. Anyway, Arthur Guinness was a very, very good man, and even to this day, the Guinnesses have all, up to recently anyway, they've looked after people who worked for them, etc. Very good people. Now, the cathedral is now safe and sound because they piped the river. While he was doing it, he did a perfect job. He gave us this magnificent floor. Now, being a 12th century cathedral, one would expect it to have plain grey flags, stone flags. Most of them have. This one was given this magnificent floor by the Guinness family. And the floor tells a lot of stories, because you can see here, first of all, the shamrock, the insignia of the shamrock. And St. Patrick, do you know why the shamrock is chosen as our national emblem? You may have heard it. When he was preaching, he's said to have reached down and taken a shamrock and explained that as 3 leaves made one shamrock, 3 persons made one God. And that's why it's our national symbol. And also there you can see a lot of interlacing design. You see here that you will see on dancing costumes of young girls particularly. And that's of course a design which was brought to us, got from the Celts, our original invaders, all those years, about 1000 BC. It also tells the story of the Normans. Am I standing on one? Some of us are. Excuse me. You can see the fleur-de-lis. There it is there. It's at intervals along the floor. The fleur-de-lis, the symbol of the Normans, because of course they were French, originally from Normandy. So it's a wonderful floor. Now I go back a little bit because at this cathedral, 1192, it was dedicated. Ireland, in those days, I don't know if I told you that both of the cathedrals were built as Catholic, because Catholic literally means Christian and universal. But with the coming of the Reformation in the 16th century, we had the Suppression of Monasteries Act by Henry VIII. And this cathedral, together with Christ Church, in fact all church properties in these islands, became the property of the Crown of England and automatically became Anglican. To this day, a surprise for most people is that St. Patrick's Cathedral in Dublin is an Anglican cathedral. The Anglican communion in this country has taken on the title of Church of Ireland. They do in various parts of the world. This is the Church of Ireland. It's a beautiful cathedral, but both of our cathedrals are still Anglican, which is a major surprise for a lot of people. Now, this cathedral has seen many happenings. We had a visit here from Oliver Cromwell in the 1640s, and he said to have used it as a stable for his horses. He desecrated the cathedral. Then we've a lot of monuments around, and I won't tell you the history of all of the monuments, but that's the royal door behind you there. And it's below road level because it's a 12th century cathedral with a 20th century road. But we don't really use it. I think on ceremonial occasions they would open it. Over there they have the scaffold because they're replacing the window. There was a wonderful stained glass window there, and it has been taken out. In fact, it's gone to England piece by piece to have it cleaned, and then they will come back and reset it with the lead. So that's what's happening there. To the left of it here you have the Boyle Memorial. Now, Richard Boyle was one of the favourite gentlemen of Elizabeth I of England, and she gave a lot of land, as did most British monarchs, to their followers, to their favourite people. In the south of Ireland, she had Richard Boyle. He was given the title of the Great Earl of Cork and given huge tracts of land. His next door neighbour was Sir Walter Raleigh, another friend of hers, was also given huge tracts of land. So it's all part of our history, various plantations. What you can see there on the second level up, the child kneeling, that is said to be Robert Boyle, the physicist, who discovered Boyle's law of physics. So, and it's the memorial to his, from the deanery across the road. He couldn't bear to come and see her buried. It was all very sad. So anyway, that's a bit about Swift. We'll see more of them as we go around the cathedral. So we'll head up on the left-hand side if we may.
Would you repeat those 4 lines again for me so I can get them on videotape?
He spent the little wealth he had to build a home for fools and mad, and showed with one satiric touch no nation needed it as much. Now, we go up the left-hand side if we may. Thank you. back to the year 1492, and I've already mentioned the Fitzgeralds several times as we went through Georgian Dublin, the Fitzwalters. And the Fitzgeralds had the title of the Earls of Kildare. The Fitzwalters became the butlers to the Kings of England, and they took on the surname Butler and dropped the name Fitzwalter for some reason. But they came here anyway to end a feud between these two Norman clans. This door was down in the chapter house at the very bottom of the cathedral on the right hand side. And the Earl of Kildare, the Fitzgerald, he had his people inside the chapter house. Here in the body of the cathedral we had the Duke of Ormond, the butlers, and the Earl of Kildare apparently wanted to come into the cathedral to shake hands with his adversary, and he was advised not to, that it was a trap, that he would be killed. So instead of coming in, he cut a hole in the door, put his hand through, from the other side of course, and shook hands with the head of the butler clan, and peace was made. He figured, I suppose, if your hand was still belonging to you after a handshake, it was okay. So it's known as the door of reconciliation. It's, as I always describe it, as a curiosity more than anything else. So this is an interesting corner here. This is the memorial corner. Now this part of the church here is known as Memorial Corner, and of course in the Anglican tradition they have war memorials and flags inside the cathedral. There's certainly nothing that we would ever see in a Catholic cathedral unless it was an actually army church. But here above on your left you'll notice all of the Union Jacks, and these were regimental flags. It was the custom when a regiment was disbanded to hand the flag into the local cathedral, and that's exactly what happened here. And you can see the regiments there. The 4th and 6th Battalion of the Royal Irish Regiment, and it was for 1914. Above there you have the Royal Dublin Fusiliers, again 1914. And these were regiments of the British Army in which Irishmen were. Now, they were actually Irish regiments because we had no national army of our own here until 1922, and our state was formed by Michael Collins, etc. And our army was founded at the same time. So in preceding centuries, and in 1914, this was the year of the Great War, the war to end all wars, or so we hoped. And in 1914, a lot of Irishmen joined these particular regiments. And during that war, we lost 50,000 young Irish from a population of 3.5 million. I mean, it's what a thought, dreadful thought. Especially when you realise how young they were. Some of them were as young as 15. There was a lot of poverty, not just here, but also in England in those times. And so many people joined the army just for a job, you know. And God loved them, so many died. 50,000 from our country alone. So they're remembered here. And on the back wall there, now they are not burial places because of the river being under this end. It's all dry now. But we've no crypt in St. Patrick's. And the only burials underground are Swift and Stella and another Dean at the far end. These are memorials to the China, South Africa and Burma campaigns in which Irishmen took part. So they're just remembered here. And of course the poppy is for remembrance. Up above there, very fitting, is the Guinness Window. And this was a memorial window to Lord and Lady Iva, the head of the Guinness family. You can see on the bottom right-hand corner it was erected by his children to Lord Iva. So the Guinness Memorial Window. And here you have a very fine spiral staircase which goes up to the organ loft. And the organ is in over the second niche over the high altar. And do I have to... I'm going to have a little competition. As you look at the high altar there, over it you can see the stained glass in the centre of what we think St. Patrick looked like. Although he was a young man, when I was growing up, I think he was at least 80, because you know the long grey beard is depicted. But on the right-hand side there, we have the woman, St. Bridget. She's the patroness of Ireland, and she was the woman who founded the first community of nuns in County Kildare, in the town of Kildare. And to the left of Patrick, as we look up, that is St. Columba. He's the man he was a missionary apostle, went to various parts of Europe bringing Christianity. But he was the man who led a contingent of Irish monks to the island of Iona off the west coast of Scotland. and was there in this famous monastery that the Book of Kells was written. It was called the Book of Kells because during Viking raids on Scotland, it was sent in safekeeping to the monastery of Kells 40 miles from Dublin. So that's how it's called the Book of Kells. It was there far longer than it ever was in Iona. And of course it's in Trinity. I'll tell you about that in the post. On either side here you have the choir, where monks would have sat originally. Today they have a magnificent choir, the Boys of St. Patrick's, and they sing here every morning. Well, that's during school term and again on Sundays. And the boys are drawn from the grammar school. It incorporates the choir school. It's on the left, the far side of the road. The choir was instituted in 1432 and is still going strong. Not the same fellas, but it's the same choir. In fact, there are girls, because a couple of years ago the school went co-ed, and we see some little girls in the choir now and again. So all is well. Now these are the stalls of the Knights of St. Patrick. You see the flags, they dominate the altar area. And these were people in high office here in Ireland, and the Order of St. Patrick was a way of rewarding people for services to the Crown. So you would have had Lords Chief Justices, Lords Lieutenant and Viceroys, and their family crest was above there, and it's copied onto the back of the stall, and helmets and swords over them there are symbolic of knighthood. And these were very privileged people. They were given lots of privileges by being Knights of St. Patrick. And on the first one on the right-hand side here, this is the so that's a bit about the Knights of St. Patrick. This beautiful lectern here in solid brass. And this is the symbol of John the Baptist. It's strong courage to overcome. And the pulpit is a gift of William and Mary. And here you have the coat of arms of William and Mary, the lion and the unicorn. Now, the unicorn has lost the point, but anyway, that's William and Mary. Now, William and Mary ruled your country and my country as joint sovereigns for 13 years. William came to power at the Battle of the Boyne in the year 1690, when he defeated his father-in-law, James. That was the Catholic James, was defeated by the Protestant William. And then William and Mary ruled as joint sovereigns for 13 years. And he was, of course, William of Orange, from the Royal Dutch household. And that's where we get the title of Orange people in the north of Ireland, because they were the followers of William. And we had the Williamite plantation in the 17th century. The followers of William were settled there. It happens all over, certainly all over Europe, plantations after battles. So a bit of Irish history here. Now this was the royal pew. Of course we are now a republic. We don't have a king or a queen. We have a president, and she, I'm glad to say, comes here with her husband Martin on occasions, special occasions. That's her insignia there, St. Patrick's blue with the harp, the insignia of the President of Ireland. So you might come with me now, and we'll cross the seats there over to the only place in the cathedral where we have our own national flag. Because above my head here is the only place in the cathedral where you will find our national flag. And the green in our flag symbolises the native Irish. The orange represents our brethren in the north, who were originally the followers of William of Orange. And of course those people would be mainly of the Protestant faith. And then white between two cultures symbolises peace. And we're beginning to live up to our flag, thank God. Now, it's erected here over a little tablet commemorating Dr. Douglas Hyde. Douglas Hyde was the first president of Ireland under our new constitution. The constitution was drawn up in 1937, although we hadn't been a state since 22, but this was all part of the deal with Britain. The constitution in 1937, and in 1938 we appointed our first president. Now he was an agreed candidate in the Parliament. Our Parliament was set up by then, and they all agreed that Douglas Hyde was the perfect man to represent all of the Irish. The reason being, he was an Irishman of course, but he had an Anglo-Irish background. He was a Protestant gentleman, so if you like, he embraced all cultures. And at his own request, he was inaugurated as President of Ireland here at St. Patrick's Cathedral, because he was one of the congregation here. And I'll read it for you, it's in Gaelic. Dúglas de Hinte, that's the Gaelic for Douglas Hyde. Céad Uachtaráin na hÉireann, first President of Ireland, and his term of office was from 1938 to 1945. Our president served a 7-year term. Now, he was prevailed upon to go ahead for another 7, and he declined the offer because he was in failing health. You can see here that he died in 1949. He was a university professor and he taught at University College Dublin. And he was also the man who founded the Gaelic League in the 1890s. This was an organisation for the restoration of the Irish language, which had been outlawed by the penal laws. The Irish language and the Catholic religion had been outlawed. So he was the man, if you like, responsible for really bringing back our consciousness of our own language. So that was Dr. Douglas Hyde. This man here was Erskine Childers. I remember him well. He was president only for 1 year. He too was a member of the Anglican congregation here. And this is an Irish High Cross. An Irish High Cross that's the correct name for it. Sometimes it's called a Celtic Cross. We call it Celtic. The Scots call it Celtic because we speak a different dialect of the same language. The circle, we're told, represents the sun and pagan worship. We were pagans until Patrick came, and the story goes, I don't know how true it is, but it has been something passed down through the years, that Patrick superimposed the cross of Christianity on the pagan symbol, and that's how we have the Irish High Cross. And this is a very ornamental one, it's a beautiful one there. It's erected to Sir Samuel Ferguson, who is a poet and a musician. So we'll head down now, and if you want to see some of the
This is still St. Patrick's Cathedral from the outside. It's our transportation for the day.
Hurry up and get down.
Right, so it should come through email.
Why aren't they
Talk to me, wave.
in the room? I don't know. Traitors, get in the room.
We're coming.
Spirit fingers. Spirit.
We're at a lovely place called Power Court,
But it was shutting off.
about 40 minutes outside of Dublin. And this is the house. out of Dublin, I'm starting to talk like them.
12 decks, you said.
12 decks, yeah.
The Ulysses, it's the largest truck and car ferry in Europe, if not in the world. I'm not sure.
The world, okay.
Loading trucks on.
We're inside the Ulysses. Massive. We're on the 11th deck at the moment. One deck above where they steer and navigate. And the only one above it is for the control tower, signals and things. Massive harbor.
Dude, the hardest stuff you got. What's their house pump? Let me get some napkins. It's whatever's on ground.
Get some napkins, please.
Here's something
The crew making themselves at home.
Here's the travel camper pulling the car. Yeah.
Well, they have to put all
Observation deck.
That way when they park and level out the mobile home, they've still got a vehicle that
Then they've got a way of treating, yeah, because you don't want to have the house with you're leveling that all.
Here comes another one.
Now up by us,
That
it's
is the
usually
tiniest little carts pulled in.
yeah. Up by us now,
It's like a
someone
Mr.
who
Bean
can afford
mini.
the big travel camper like that usually has some
where's
sort of
everyone
Porsche, SUV,
Oh yeah.
some
I don't know.
behind it.
Where is that? Dublin Bay, getting ready to leave for Holyhead, Wales. As Georgina says, Holyhead.
We are coming into Wales. Now the coastline. We are turning. This boat can do a complete 360 without ever going forward or backwards.
know yet to see if my sister and I can have a room with 2 beds.
As you said,